I refuse to spend any money on DoorDash, but I'll spend $200 a month for jiu-jitsu classes. I also refuse to buy a luxury watch, but I'll gladly buy concert tickets for my wife and I. And I refuse to buy a brand new car, but I'll pay for a family trip without hesitation. Like just this last week, my wife and I joined up with my parents, brothers, and sister-in-law, and we went to Banff National Park in Canada. It was stunning, and I had no reservations about buying that plane ticket, paying for the food, and reserving some fun excursions.
All right, we're biking through Canmore right now. We got these bikes from Pedigo.
Everything I paid for in this family trip, in my mind, was 100% worth it because I already know myself. And these kinds of purchases follow the principle that I want to share with you today called values-based spending. So what is this fancy phrase that sounds like an easy justification for spending money? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you what exactly it is, why it's important if you have a family or are looking to start a family, and the best way that you can improve this skill of values-based spending. And of course, I'll do all of this while sharing some peaceful B-roll from our trip to Banff, which is our most recent values-based expense.
Wow.
If you've been watching this channel for a bit, or if you're in the Frugal Rich Facebook group, link in description, you may have already heard the term values-based spending. Simply put, it means spending in alignment with what truly matters to you and not wasting money on things you don't care about. Now, this is something that most people get wrong when it comes to being frugal. When most people think about a frugal person, they'll just think, wow, they're just cheapskates that never spend money and they'll do anything to save a penny. Well, I'm happy to report that most people are wrong. When you're truly frugal and not cheap, you focus on this values-based spending. And yes, the term includes the word spending, so us as frugal people can do a lot of spending, just not in the same way that most people do it. When we're trying our best to do this values-based spending, we understand that we can't just have everything, but we can in fact have anything. Or better put by David Allen, you can do anything, but not everything. And when we prioritize our values when we spend our money, we become more conscious of our choices and gain a better understanding of ourselves. Like, let me know in the comments, what is one thing you gladly spent money on this year so far? I'm going to share a real life example of this from our most recent trip and also throughout my life, but honestly, the biggest perk of following this new approach to spending is that it has saved me from those horrible feelings of financial guilt and shame that I used to always have when I spent my hard-earned money. Like, I would feel bad for spending money on things I needed, like a pair of shoes or a new set of tires. But once I began practicing values-based spending, I started giving myself permission to spend on the things that I needed and the things that I care about. Let's use the example from my first sentence in this video. I value a ton of things in my life, including 3 of the following. 1, learning new skills throughout my life. 2, finding community in my local area. And 3, building self-confidence. So one of my most recent values-based purchases was for jiu-jitsu classes. It cost $200 a month, which would have made me throw up 2 years ago, but signing up for this new hobby was aligned with all 3 of these values that I just listed. 1, jiu-jitsu is a totally brand new skill that I could learn. 2, it brings together a very down-to-earth community of people that live in my area. And 3, it does build major self-confidence when you learn and know how to defend yourself. But don't get me wrong, before I pulled the trigger on this new hobby, I was very hesitant, and a huge part of me wanted to say no once again to a new hobby because I didn't want to add another expense to my life. But once I thought about it, I realized that this new expense wouldn't affect our financial goals at all. And more importantly, this new expense was completely aligned with my values. And at that point, it became easy to say yes. And this won't always be the case. Sometimes values-based spending might lead you to realize that what you truly value doesn't even require spending at all, which I'm excited to uncover later in this video because that principle can save you thousands every year. Alright, but now that we know what it is, I want to understand why it's actually so important to know values-based spending if you're an adult who has a family or is looking to start a family. Well, as we all step into adulthood, we're all expected to spend our money wisely. But no one actually taught us how to spend growing up. A lot of parents, especially immigrant parents like mine, always talked about saving, saving, saving. Where to save, how to save, and why to save. The act of saving became a major skill of mine, but I didn't realize that spending was also a skill of its own. No one, and I mean no one, talked about where to spend, how to spend, and why to spend in the same way they talked about saving. In fact, spending felt like the unwise life decision. It felt as if spending was the bad guy and saving was the good guy. Just like how I thought Severus Snape in Harry Potter was a bad guy, but turns out he was a helpful good guy the whole dang time. Spoiler alert. Oops, I think I'm supposed to say that before I spoil it. But honestly, if you haven't seen Harry Potter by now, that's on you. Anyway, I just want to stress the point that spending really is a skill, and without mastering it, saving alone will not lead you to financial peace. Consuming things and consumption as a whole is a natural part of life. Even if you think you're the ultimate saver, you still have to buy some things in order to survive. Unless you're one of those Alaskan bush people, in which case you're probably not watching this YouTube video.
When I say twerking, what do you think?
Sounds kind of like, you know, putting a wrench on something and going just a little too far with it.
Obviously, I would warn against any overconsumption or excessive indulgence, but when we learn to spend purposefully, it positively impacts not only our finances, but also our overall well-being. And so let's jump right into how we can actually practice values-based spending. First off, no one can fully master values-based spending because, let's be honest, the things we value over time can and will evolve and change. Back in 2008, the thing I valued was the newest Battle for Middle-earth PC game. But now I'm out here valuing cheaper car insurance. The sad reality of adulting. Anyways, because our values and the stuff we care about evolves with time, we shouldn't try to master values-based spending, but we can just practice values-based spending in whatever phase of our life we're in. The best way to practice this is by first examining where our money currently goes. I would recommend you start tracking your spending over the next 90 days. Look at your spending with curiosity, not criticism. Don't go and try to change your habits and behaviors at this point. Just look at it. From an objective standpoint, look at how you're currently living and where a lot of your money is going. And as you see these numbers, analyze the triggers behind your spending and whether those triggers align with your values. For example, consider that iced vanilla latte you bought with your girlies. Was that just an excuse to hang out with your friends? Or was that drink truly something you cherish? In a lot of cases, you might realize that the only reason you're grabbing Starbucks or grabbing brunch is just the means for you to spend quality time with your friends. If that's the case, you might just need to tweak the means for obtaining this value of yours, which is quality time with friends. You can instead choose to maybe go on a walk together, host a game night at someone's house, and you'll still be getting that value of quality time with friends. The most important thing here is to understand that spending itself is not the issue. It's about knowing why you're doing it. So go ahead and review your transactions over the next 90 days and identify the purchases that align with your values and the purchases that don't align with your values. Some of those ones could just be purchases made because of social pressure, social media, or just impulsive spending. Once you've clearly defined the why behind certain expenses, this is when you can now turn your research into action. If you realize there's something you value that doesn't require this expense that you're using to get it, then maybe cut that out or make a tweak to your lifestyle. Remember, this is going to be an ongoing journey of learning, refining, and giving yourself permission to change your perspective. And like I said, guys, some of our values can be embraced and lived without spending any money at all. So in this video here, I share 20 of the ways I fulfill some of my most important values of my life for $0. Just give it a click and I'll see you guys over there. Peace.